Ever feel like, sometimes the official stories we get, they just kind of scratch the surface. Like there's got to be more to it.
Yeah.
Well, today, we are going deep, diving into a mystery surrounding someone you definitely know of, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris.
Okay.
And get this, our main source isn't some dusty old article or anything like that.
Right.
It's an audio recording
Wow.
of two women.
Mm.
And one of them claims she actually knew W. Harris's paternal grandmother.
Wow. What's captivating about this is we so rarely get to hear directly from somebody who knew the family of such a, prominent figure.
Yeah.
It's like finding a missing piece of a puzzle almost.
Exactly.
Offering us this glimpse into the past through a very personal, intimate lens.
And we're talking about Kamala Harris's grandmother here.
Right.
Who this woman on the recording refers to as Miss Barlae.
Okay.
And right away, it's clear Miss Barlae wasn't just another face in the crowd.
Yeah, definitely not. I mean, this woman, Dorothy, she paints this picture of Miss Barlae as this, force of nature. A really successful businesswoman, ran the only two-story shop in her whole village.
Wow.
And even built the shop herself.
Oh, wow.
Which, that speaks volumes about her drive and the kind of respect she commanded in rural Jamaica at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, picture this, right? You've got young Dorothy hanging out at Miss Barlae's shop.
Yeah.
Getting those sweet paradise plums and busters, which, by the way, those are like these coconut caramelized sugar treats.
Oh, wow.
But it wasn't just about the sweets, right?
Right.
Miss Barlae also took a real interest in Dorothy's education, like always quizzing her on her schoolwork.
Oh, how interesting.
It really suggests she had a nurturing side.
Yeah.
That she was invested in her community and its future.
Yeah, you can really see how these small details give us these hints about, the values and the dynamics of the time. I mean, imagine that. This is the future vice president's grandmother shaping young minds.
Right.
Alongside handing out traits.
Exactly.
But, as we'll discover, the story takes a really interesting turn when Dorothy describes Miss Barlae's appearance.
Right, because what she describes, it kind of goes against what we've seen in photos.
It does.
And we're not just talking about a different hairstyle here.
Right.
We're talking potentially different ancestry.
Exactly, yeah.
Dorothy remembers Miss Barlae as being fair-skinned, maybe even with, Irish heritage. She even remembers thinking there was, quote, something Irish there about her.
And this isn't just some small detail,
No.
This actually challenges the existing narrative that we have surrounding Kamala Harris's heritage.
Yeah.
Think about it. Visual identification, it carries a lot of weight, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And this discrepancy, it raises some serious questions about, the accuracy of the public information that we have.
And it gets even more interesting because when they showed Dorothy photos from Harris's autobiography,
Right.
she didn't recognize the woman as the Miss Barlae she knew. And this wasn't just a hazy memory thing.
Right.
She was certain.
Wow.
So, I mean, what are we supposed to make of that?
Well, it definitely makes us want to dig deeper. And one thing that's very clear from Dorothy's recollections is just how important social status and respect were within her community.
Yeah.
It wasn't just about being polite. It was very deeply ingrained in how people lived their lives.
Yeah. She talks about how important surnames and titles were, how,
Yeah.
even from a young age,
Right.
how you address someone as Miss or Mr. mattered.
It mattered, yeah. And it wasn't just about manners either, right?
Right.
It was very much tied to this whole social hierarchy, often connected to things like land ownership and family history.
Wow.
So Dorothy's insights here, they offer this really valuable window into how complex life in rural Jamaica was during that era.
It makes you wonder, if we take Dorothy's account as, as she's saying it,
Yeah.
where did Miss Barlae fit into all of this?
Right.
I mean, she was a successful businesswoman.
Exactly.
She was invested in education.
Right.
All of that suggests a certain social standing.
It does.
But then there's this discrepancy with her appearance.
And that's what makes it so compelling. This is about more than just, one woman's looks.
Right.
It makes us question how racial identity and privilege might have functioned within this specific time and place.
And it's not just about Miss Barlae either, right?
Yeah.
It's about, the whole social fabric.
It is.
Dorothy's own experiences, her upbringing, even her own grandmother, who was born way back in 1879.
Wow.
It all adds up to this, much richer understanding of the context.
It does, absolutely. And these details, they matter.
Yeah.
Because they provide the backdrop against which we can evaluate these different threads of this whole mystery. Take, for instance, Dorothy's recollection of Miss Barlae building this new house with a hidden water tank.
Yep.
I mean, on the surface of a water tank, you might think, okay, what's the big deal?
Right, exactly.
But in a rural community where resources were scarce,
Right.
having your own hidden water supply,
Right.
that suggests, potentially, a level of wealth and influence that goes beyond what we might initially assume.
Yeah.
This detail alone makes us reconsider Ms. Barlae's position within her community and how access to, you know, something like water might have shaped privilege back then.
Right. It makes you wonder why she'd feel the need to hide it.
Exactly.
Was it a practicality thing?
Yeah. Was it just practical?
Or did it signify something deeper about her standing?
Right.
It's a small detail,
Yeah.
but it speaks volumes.
It really does. It's like that water tank. It's like a metaphor, isn't it? It makes you wonder, what else could be, you know, hidden beneath the surface of this story? Yeah.
How our view of the past is really shaped by what's, what's visible, what's been recorded.
It's a great point. And speaking of things that make you think,
Yeah.
there's this other moment in the recording
Okay.
that really jumped out at me.
Okay.
Dorothy mentions her friend, Mickey,
Right.
the other woman in the conversation.
Right.
And Mickey brings up this idea of Black privilege, especially in the context of like Jamaica's social dynamics.
And this is where understanding those kind of like nuances of history becomes super important.
Yeah.
Because this whole idea of Black privilege, it's complex.
Right.
And it's often, I think, misunderstood.
Yeah.
It's not about denying the struggles and the inequalities that Black communities have faced throughout history.
Yeah.
But it does make us think about how privilege operates differently, potentially, across different social groups.
And how those power dynamics have played out in specific historical contexts.
It's about recognizing that history isn't always, black and white.
Right.
Right.
Exactly, yeah.
There's all these shades of gray.
Yeah.
There's complexities, contradictions.
And absolutely.
And Jamaica, like a lot of post-colonial societies, it has this really layered history.
Yeah.
When it comes to race, class, even colorism. And those aren't just like, abstract ideas.
No.
These things have had tangible consequences for generations.
And within that really complex history, Mickey's comment, whether or not we personally agree with the term Black privilege, it forces us to at least examine it, right?
Yeah.
How perceptions of race and social standing might have shifted, how they might have evolved over time.
Yeah.
It's a good reminder that these dynamics, they're not static. They're always in flux, influenced by, everything from political shifts to just economic realities on the ground.
It's like we're trying to understand like the current of a river by looking at like the different eddies and currents. And
Exactly. And that's why these conversations are so important. How you have to hear these different perspectives, even the ones that challenge us, because they make us dig deeper.
Yeah. So let's bring it back to Dorothy's story.
Okay.
We've got these very compelling recollections of Miss Barlae.
Yeah.
Her appearance, her social standing.
Yeah.
That hidden water tank.
The water tank,
It feels like more questions than answers.
It does, yeah. It's the nature of a deep dive sometimes, though. Right? You're dealing with fragmented memories, personal interpretations, a lack of definitive proof.
But that doesn't mean that we should just dismiss it all.
No, not at all.
Right.
In fact, these kind of ambiguities, this is what makes history so captivating.
Right.
It forces us to think critically, weigh the evidence as best we can, and just acknowledge that there's often multiple valid interpretations of the same event.
Okay, so where does this leave us?
Yeah.
What are we supposed to make of Dorothy's account? How does it change the narrative surrounding Kamala Harris's family history?
Yeah, I mean, that is the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a couple of possibilities to consider.
Okay.
One is that, it's just a case of mistaken identity. Maybe despite Dorothy's certainty, memories have blended over time.
Right.
Or maybe she's, like, conflating a couple different people from her past.
Yeah, yeah. It's possible.
It's totally possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what if Dorothy's account is accurate?
Right.
What if there are inaccuracies?
Yeah.
In the public information that we have
It's possible.
about Kamala Harris's grandmother?
Yeah.
Could there be details about her life?
Right.
About her appearance, her social standing?
Yeah.
That haven't been fully revealed?
Possibly.
Or accurately represented?
Yeah, and this gets to the power of oral history.
Right.
Because Dorothy's story, it reminds us that history isn't just, some collection of dates and names in a textbook, right?
Right.
It's about lived experiences. It's shaped by individual memories, perspectives, and yes, even potential biases.
Right, but those individual stories, especially ones from voices that we don't always hear.
Right, exactly.
Can challenge kind of the dominant narrative.
They can, yeah.
Shine a light on these hidden truths.
Yeah.
And really, enrich our understanding of the past.
Exactly. And in this case, Dorothy's account, regardless of, whether it's true or not, it raises these critical questions about how we build narratives, particularly when it comes to things like, family history, race, the stories we tell ourselves about our past.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating.
Yeah, it's like we're getting this glimpse behind the curtain.
It is.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We think about history as this kind of fixed thing.
Yeah.
But what Dorothy's story tells us is that it's pieced together.
It is.
There are these silences, these gaps.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's those gaps
where
we find the most interesting stories.
It's so true. And it highlights how important it is to kind of dig deeper, seek out these missing voices, the ones that challenge what we think.
Yeah.
Or just offer a totally different way of looking at things.
So what does this all mean?
Yeah.
For, us, the listeners.
Yeah.
Trying to make sense of all of this?
It's a good question. It's really a call for all of us to be active participants in how we understand the past.
Yeah.
Don't just accept, the official story, the dominant narratives.
Right.
You have to ask those questions.
Yeah.
Be curious.
Right.
Look for those little nuances, contradictions.
Right.
The stories that might not have made it into the history books.
It's like being a detective almost.
It is.
Right.
Yeah.
But instead of looking for clues, at a crime scene or something.
Yeah.
We're looking for clues.
Right.
In the stories we tell.
Yes.
About ourselves, about our families, our communities.
Yeah. And those stories, they're powerful.
Right.
They really shape our identities, our sense of belonging.
Right.
Even the way that we view the world around us.
Yeah.
Which is why it's even more important to, examine them closely.
Right.
Consider who's telling it, what perspectives are we not hearing, and how do they continue to shape how we see things today.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Kamala Harris's family history, we might not have concrete answers about who Miss Barlae really was or where she fit into Jamaican society.
That's true.
But we've uncovered something I think way more compelling, which is just how important it is to question things, to be curious, to recognize
absolutely.
how many layers there are to history.
Dorothy's story, it's a great reminder. History isn't just dates and facts in a book. It's, it's a living thing. It's made up of all these individual experiences.
Right.
Each one of them with their own complexities and interpretations. And searching for the truth means we got to be open to challenging what we think we know. Be okay with not knowing everything and accept that sometimes the best stories are the ones without easy answers.
It's true. And sometimes, the journey is just as important as the destination.
It really is.
It's the questioning. It's that act of going into the unknown.
Yeah.
That's where understanding begins.
I think that's a great place to leave it.